Hey, what's going on, horror fans? This is Ben here with Out of Frame. Today we're diving into the Conjuring Last Rites, the final chapter for Ed and Lorraine Warren. We're going to be covering a full spoiler recap, my analysis of what worked and what didn't, and some killer trivia including cameos and connections that you may have missed, so let's get into it. So the movie kicks off in the past. Ed and Lorraine are on their very first case and it's in an antique shop. Lorraine looks around, she feels and senses that there's something evil, and she walks in and finds a cursed mirror in the back of this shop. When she gets near it and she touches it, it cracks, and suddenly she's rushed into an emergency labor. At the hospital, baby Judy is delivered, stillborn. Lorraine cradles her lifeless child in her arms while she and Ed are praying desperately for a miracle, and then it happens. A miracle. Judy gasps to life in her mother's arms, and this sets the emotional tone for the movie. We have faith, family, and love fighting tirelessly against the darkness. We next jump ahead to the 1980s. We're in a Pennsylvania mining town with the Smurl family. Now, this is the famous Smurl family from The Real Haunting, and they are plagued by various hauntings that are happening. Their daughter is gifted a mirror for her Catholic confirmation, and yes, already you know, this is the same cursed mirror that Lorraine touched all those years before. When the two oldest daughters try to throw it out because it gives them the creeps, it shatters in a trash compactor, but you know that's not the last that we're going to see of it. With the mirror trashed, the hauntings escalate. Glass in the mouth, a pale woman in a nightgown, a twisted smile crone, a looming tall man with an axe. The family begs for help, but they are ignored by everybody, including the Catholic Church. So they turn to the media, even landing a spot on Larry King Live. Meanwhile, back with the Warrens, Judy is all grown up. She's in love with her fiance, Tony, but Ed's heart condition has forced the Warrens into an early retirement. When Father Gordon comes and asks for help on the Smurl case, Lorraine refuses because she can't risk Ed's life. So Father Gordon is forced to go and try to help the Smurl family alone, and this is where he tragically dies. He's driven to hang himself after a possession from being in the Smurl house, where the demon takes possession of him and forces him to kill himself. It's a terrible end to Father Gordon. Now, Father Gordon's death shakes the Warrens to their core, especially Judy. She has a really hard time coping with his death and feels like there's more that could have been done to help him. To find her parents, Judy travels to Pennsylvania to help the Smurl family herself. Lorraine's vision confirmed that there is something terribly wrong, and the Warrens and Tony rush after her because they don't know what kind of trouble she's gonna get herself into. The Warrens are able to catch up with Judy, and they're inside of the Smurl home. Lorraine discovers the mirror's demon is manipulating restless spirits from past violence, and Judy even finds the mirror back in one piece in the attic of the Smurl home. Annabelle even makes a really eerie cameo appearance in this part of the movie, taunting Judy, and it makes for one of the coolest scares in the entire movie. After touching the mirror, Judy falls ill, and then she becomes possessed herself. In a chilling echo of Father Gordon's fate, the demon compels her toward hanging herself, and it makes for one of the craziest part of the entire movie. In the climactic battle, Ed, Lorraine, Judy, and Tony all battle the demon mirror as it levitates above them and physically attacks them. In a really cool sequence, reflections of their evil versions sneer back at themselves in the mirror. It's a really cool scene. In a final surge of family unity, Lorraine, Judy, and Ed confront the demon head on, and with the power of prayer and unity, they break the hold of the demon with their shared show of faith and love. After the climactic battle, the Warrens bring the mirror back to their home museum, and Ed, in a really cool scene, symbolically tosses the keys of the home museum to Tony, seemingly passing their torch to him and Judy. Finally, at Judy and Tony's wedding, the cameos abound. Writer, director, producer James Wan is in the crowd. Families from earlier Conjuring films can also be seen. It's a really neat end to the movie. Lorraine tells Ed of her dreams of a peaceful future filled with grandchildren. And in my opinion, one of the best endings of any of the movies. The Warrens dance together, content that love has carried them through, and help them to conquer all of their demons. All right, so now that we have a quick recap of the actual film itself, let's talk a little bit about some of the themes that are present in the movie. To me, one of the biggest themes is family legacy. I really like how they make Judy inherit her family and her parents' burden. In a lot of ways, she has the same gifts that Lorraine does, but she doesn't know how to deal with them. And in one of the most tragic parts of the movie, Lorraine wants to protect Judy so much that she doesn't let Judy fully experience and fully learn to control her gifts. And that really does become one of the biggest problems that Judy has to overcome during the movie. She's inherited her parents' burden now of fighting these demons and having to control the evil that she confronts on a daily basis to not let it negatively affect her life. And only through love of her family does she learn to control her gifts and ultimately bring peace to the Smurl family, which hopefully is an indication that she's going to be able to pick up the legacy that her parents have set and continue to help families through their struggles as well. The second theme that I want to talk about that I think is really present in the movie is the idea of accepting gifts from God even when they are unwanted. You know, Judy has been gifted the same gift that Lorraine has, but Lorraine works really hard throughout the entire movie to try to force Judy to just ignore that gift. And only at the end, through the arc that the two characters make, is that they have to accept their gifts even if they are unwanted. And this is really what I think is the biggest lesson that Lorraine learns, is having to accept that her daughter now has been gifted this same burden, but that through their faith and through their love, she'll be able to use it hopefully in a positive way with many, many people, just like Ed and Lorraine did. Now, Lorraine's character arc, like I just mentioned, is probably the most satisfying of all of the characters in the movie. She is definitely the cornerstone and the keystone of the entire series of movies. And she has to change from the start of the movie as being very overprotecting of Judy to finally accepting Judy's gift and her potential destiny as having to continue to help families who need help in the spiritual realm. I really love the performance of the character in the movie. She starts very controlled, she starts very overbearing, she starts very overprotective, and then through the course of the movie, she's able to accept Judy's gift and really at the end empower her to take the gifts and to do something with them to carry on her family's legacy. So Lorraine's arc, in my opinion, is the one true character arc in this particular film that drives all of the narrative forward. Now, speaking of Ed Warren and his specific character work and character arc, I really like how they make his heart problem the ticking clock in the movie. It adds so much suspense to him having to help Lorraine and battle the demon, because we know, and it's been said by his doctor in the movie even, that one more heart attack is going to kill him. So he really has to take very, very good care of his body and of his heart and his heart condition. This adds tension and suspense, and it's the ticking clock that we are really working against throughout the entire movie. And ultimately, he has to just accept that the power that his wife has, the gift that his wife has, is going to force him to have to take this risk of battling the demon. And it really helps him to be able to understand that the risk is worth it. He says it multiple times, that he has to help the family, and he really is the heart of the movie along with Lorraine, no pun intended, specifically related to the heart condition that he's dealing with, and it really does make for a lot of tension throughout the movie. So let's talk a real quick moment about Judy's fiance, Tony, in the movie. At first, I was kind of a little bummed out that they were bringing in a new character into this family dynamic, but it really fit great. And the reason why is because it's a bit of a contrast between Ed as an adult and who Ed was as a young person. He sees a lot of himself in young Tony. He's young, fearless, and more importantly, committed to his love, his partner, his soon-to-be wife. And you can tell that at first Ed doesn't really like him, but I think he doesn't like him just because he doesn't want to let go of his daughter, just like Lorraine is overprotective of her as well. But Tony does a really good job throughout the movie to, make Ed trust him, and he sees a lot of himself in Tony, Ed does, and ultimately in that scene that was mentioned earlier, he tosses the keys to the family's home museum as that symbolic gesture that, hey, you are now part of this family, and it really is one of the most heartfelt moments of the entire film. Now, of course, we couldn't finish off any discussion or analysis of the movie if we did not give a special nod to the reason why I think it is such a wonderful horror franchise. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, their chemistry as actors is definitely the heartbeat of the entire franchise. When I was thinking about, so what movie do I want to kick off the channel with? And this was the first on my list, mostly because I just wanted to talk about how those two characters have created such amazing protagonists that you care about, that you want to see succeed, and that you actually feel an emotional connection to. And that comes directly from the actors on the screen, creating those characters that you can learn to love. And over the course of the many films in this entire universe, in this entire franchise, you love them and you care for them and you hope that they make it through each and every one of their adventures. So the chemistry between Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga is by far the best part of this movie. I give it the A+ because of that fact alone, and they truly are the heartbeat of the franchise. A couple of elements that I think are worth mentioning in terms of the production value itself. I was really a fan of the cinematography, the gloomy gray palette for all of the haunting scenes. I think that choosing the industrial neighborhood inside of Pennsylvania was really a great backdrop for the movie. The grays kind of mix in with those haunting scenes, a lot of dark shadows and really, darkness overbearing from that specific portion of the movie. And then that is contrasted wonderfully with the warm light that you see inside of the Warrens' home. You know that they build their bubble, their home is such an important part of their life. And I think it's ironic that within that, well-lit, warm home that the Warrens have built is this museum of terror, essentially. And when that is contrasted against the color palette selected by the cinematographer for the haunting portion and the rest of the movie, I think that was something that was especially well done, and I think is excellent in terms of communicating what we're supposed to be feeling at those specific times. One of the most important factors for me when considering which horror movies I want to watch is, of course, the scare factor. That's the point of going to these movies, right? You want to get a good scare. I want to know what I'm going to be feeling when I leave the theater. Am I going to have a big fright? Is it going to be real creepy? Those are all elements that I'm looking for. One of the biggest controversies with the third Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It, was that a lot of fans were upset that they went away from the horror elements into more like a crime drama, I guess you could call it, with some horror elements involved. In this one, I'm happy to report they do take us back into the horror landscape with the movie, but I do have a pretty big problem with the movie. This is probably my biggest problem with the entire fourth movie, is that there is no new iconic villain. I wanted a Valak. I wanted something scary, something iconic that when I walk out of the theater, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's what this movie is all about. And in this one particularly, it's an unnamed, unseen villain. And in my opinion, I think to myself, a mirror? Really? That's the villain? And then at the end, they kind of make it seem as though this mirror is the overarching big bad for the entire franchise. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's cool, but what about that iconic part of it? It's just a mirror. So to me, the scare factor for this one is medium. It's cool in some places, not a lot of jump scares, some pretty cool effects, definitely, and definitely some creepy vibes throughout the movie. But without that new iconic villain like Valak, I am gonna have to say medium. And I do say again, a mirror? Really? That's what we're afraid of in this movie. Next up, if I talk a little bit about story structure, I really loved the opening of the movie. That miracle at Judy's birth really is a really big emotional hook. I'm sitting in the theater, the movie's starting, and within the first 15 minutes of the movie, I'm already invested again in these characters. I'm already invested in the Warrens and their life, and I have a definite emotional hook. So kudos to the filmmakers for that opening sequence with baby Judy's birth and the family praying and the light that comes in at the end signifying the miracle happening. I thought it was an excellent emotional hook, and it does set the tone for the rest of the movie and probably for the entire series. Really brings us back to the reason that we're here, which is the Warrens and the love as fans that we have for them as characters. Another thing I like to talk about just in terms of the structure of the movie was the climax. I really did like how it was more of a united exorcism. You had Ed, Lorraine, and also Judy coming together, hands on the mirror, and they really bring their faith collectively as a group to finally overcome and defeat this demon. To me, the symbolism I thought was excellent. The execution of the effects within the movie were outstanding, and thematically I thought it really fit as a excellent climax to the entire franchise, at least these 4 movies, and I thought that united exorcism at the climactic point in the movie was a solid choice and a really cool ending for the movie, but also as a bookend for the entire series, I thought it was an excellent choice as well. So briefly speaking on a couple of the critiques I had of the movie, I do want to report that it does just recycle many of the haunted house beats that we know and love from the genre in general. It really didn't bring anything new in terms of the hauntings themselves, especially considering it is essentially a haunted house movie. The villains, especially the man with the axe, the old crone, and the woman in white were excellent jump scares, and they were really cool looking, but they really only make an appearance once, the Axeman twice, and you're just kind of left thinking, okay, what else? And then the way that they kind of explain them away at the end, that the mirror is the one conjuring them into the home from a previous violent past, was cool, but you know, they're more of secondary characters and they don't really add much to the movie other than just the cool shots that they're in, and then we just kind of move on past them. So recycling those haunted house beats, in my opinion, brings the movie not down, just kind of keeps it at a mid-level because, well, it doesn't really bring anything new to the genre. All right, last up everybody is some trivia and Easter eggs you may have missed. My favorite part was Annabelle's cameos. She comes in at a few parts throughout the movie. She's kind of teasing and toying with Judy. First in the family home of the Warrens, really cool scene where she's on a rocking chair, and then later when she sees the mirror, she writes some, mysterious words on the ceiling and really makes it to where her cameo is impactful to bring us back, especially to Annabelle Comes Home and the close relationship, if you want to call it that, between Judy and Annabelle. With one of the central themes of the movie being motherly love and protection, we do get cameos from mothers from previous Conjuring movies, Conjuring Part 1 and Conjuring Part 2, appearing in the wedding scene at the end of the movie. I think that's a really smart nod to the theme of the movie, but also to some of the mothers who have been overprotective of their families as well in previous Conjuring movies, to kind of reinforce that theme and really add a lot of value to the sacrifice that Lorraine has made throughout the series to help Judy, at first try to stay away from her gifts, but then ultimately accepting them and hopefully using them for good in her future life as well. One of my favorite filmmakers is James Wan, and the fact that he also appears in a cameo at the end, I think is great. If memory serves correct, he gives a slight wave as Judy is walking down the aisle, and to me, in a lot of ways, he's waving at the fan base, thanking us as fans for helping to create such a wonderful and lucrative film franchise. But seeing him in the movie itself, I thought was a neat little send-off as well, being the main creative force behind the entire franchise. So seeing James Wan there was awesome as a fan. To recognize him, to see him in that sequence was super fun and awesome way to end the movie as well. Here's a bit of trivia that originally the production design team was planning on de-aging Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga for their flashback sequences. I don't know how you all feel about that, but in my opinion, it has not worked well in many movies. So to me, that instantaneously would have broken the illusion of the film and taken me completely out of it. So I am very happy that they decided to find two excellent young actors who look very much like a younger version of the two characters to fit into that portion of the movie. It keeps me invested. It does not take me away from thinking that, whoa, that's just terrible CGI. And instead, I can immerse myself into the movie. As mentioned previously, this is such an important emotional hook in the movie. I wouldn't want that to have happened. So kudos to the production team for making the wise decision of not de-aging any of those characters and leaving them to the actors to portray them. There was one cameo that I was missing, and that was from Taissa Farmiga, the much younger sister of Vera Farmiga, who appears in The Nun. And to me, that would have been just the coolest way to tie all of those movies together, to get the two sisters into the same movie at the same time. How they would have done that with a much older Taissa Farmiga, or however they would have done it, might have been kind of cool. It didn't work out due to scheduling conflicts, but to me, that would have been one of the neatest things that they could have done in the movie. It was a missed cameo. I was waiting for it. I had heard online rumors that that was something that might have been in the movie, and I was waiting literally until the end, waiting for that to happen, and it just didn't, but that's okay. Still would have been pretty cool, and you never know, maybe something like that might happen in the future. You can keep your fingers crossed on that. Alrighty folks, so that'll do it for the movie review, analysis, and trivia. I appreciate everyone sticking around and giving the channel a shot. We'll be back very often with all of sorts of different movie reviews as well. Our main focus will continue to be horror, but we might sprinkle in some sci-fi along the way or some drama just to kind of mix things up. And of course, if you have a specific movie you would like me to rate, watch, analyze, and offer trivia for, please hit it into the comments below, and I'd be happy to do that for you. So for me, The Conjuring Last Rites gets a solid 7 out of 10. It has a lot of emotional value, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. It's faithful to our characters. It gives our two main characters, Ed and Lorraine Warren, a lot to work with here in terms of character building and fulfilling their character arcs, which I think is excellent. It's not the scariest entry into the franchise. For me, the best of them is still The Conjuring 2, followed by The Conjuring Part 1. This would be the third best of the four in my opinion, and then coming up at the end for me would be The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So although it's not the scariest entry, I think it is a solid 7 out of 10, and I'm thankful that the franchise was able to end on a good note with all of my favorite characters back for one more adventure. We'll see if we see them again in another spin-off. That remains to be seen. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you checking out the channel. This is Ben signing out with Out of Frame, and we'll see you back here in the next one.